Good morning and good afternoon to everyone that's joining, and thank you so much for joining our Customer Success Learning session today. We have John DeMasi, who is going to be presenting Introduction to Cloud Volume Service for AWS, and I'm really looking forward to this session today. So John, I'll pass it over to you now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joy. And again, thank you to everyone for joining us today. I really appreciate your time, and I'm really excited to speak with you about a subject that is quite near and dear to my heart, of course, Cloud Volume Service. So a quick introduction about myself. Again, my name is John DeMasi. I am actually dialing in from beautiful Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. We've got our first sunny day in what feels like 2 months with all the hurricanes and whatnot. Hope it's sunny wherever you are as well, or some pleasant version of weather. And again, I'm a customer success program manager on the technical side of things. I specialize in cloud volumes, meaning cloud volume service, and of course, cloud volumes on tap. Awesome. Well, let's get into it. First, with a warning about the nature of time. So I do want to emphasize, especially for anybody who may be watching this webinar from the future, because we do record these and send out the links to everybody, that today's date is November 7th, 2018. Cloud Volume Service is a brand new product family. It is changing rapidly. I've tried to keep my main presentation as high level as possible so that I don't expect that most of the information I'm about to give you should change, but some of the specifics, the interface you see in the demonstration, and probably some of the Q&A, a lot of the information that I share during those parts of this presentation may be out of date, even as soon as next week. Hopefully not. But yeah, I just want to emphasize, if you're watching this and it's 2019, for example, I would visit cloud.netapp.com or reach out to my NetApp account team just to make sure I'm getting the latest info on Cloud Volume Service. Because like I said, it's brand new. We're putting a lot of resources into it, and I do expect things to change rather quickly. Okay, warning to the future people over. Here's the agenda for today's section. So we're going to start with just an overview of the Cloud Volume Service family, and just a general idea of what the point of the product is and where it's available besides AWS. Then we'll go into the AWS version of the offering, just talk about some basic features and architecture there, do a brief discussion of the use cases that are a really great fit for this product, and then we'll jump into a live demonstration where I'll just show you the interface, the method for spinning up a new volume, mounting it, taking a snapshot, and so forth. Cool. So the intended audience for this webinar is anyone who's interested in learning more about NetApp's new storage as a service offerings for NFS and SMB workloads. One of the cool things about Cloud Volume Service is that anybody can use it. It doesn't matter if you've never heard of NetApp before. It doesn't matter if you've never heard of ONTAP before. It is a simple, easy-to-use service, and it's for everybody. So you are all in the right place. Fantastic. So let's jump right into the agenda. So first of all, what is NetApp Cloud Volume Service? Great question. So in a nutshell, it is just simple, high-performance NAS storage for your public cloud workloads. It's a new storage as a service offering that NetApp is, just starting to build out and offer. It's designed to support high-performance file-based workloads in the public cloud. And, the most important thing to really understand and know about it is that it's a NetApp managed service designed for high performance and just absolute user simplicity. You should expect that you can create the storage that you need in about 10 seconds. If you take your time, maybe 30 seconds. The point is, it's simple, it's fast, and it's NetApp managed. There's really not a whole lot for you as the user to think about except how much storage do I need and at what performance level. So that's at a high level what it is. The next logical question is, okay, cool. So where can I get it? Yeah, if you're familiar with NetApp's Data Fabric vision, you know that we want to help you get your data where you need it to go as easily as possible. And, 3 of the very typical and most popular places where users want their data are the major public clouds, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft Azure. So, Cloud Volume Service is currently in preview in all 3 of these clouds. In Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud Platform, the product is called Cloud Volume Service. It's a NetApp product. And like I said, it is currently available in preview. Microsoft Azure is a little bit different. In Azure, the version of Cloud Volume Service that is being offered is actually called Azure NetApp Files, and it's a first-party Microsoft product. So that's a really interesting partnership we have there with our friends at Microsoft. So the Azure NetApp Files product is actually Azure native storage that's powered in a very similar way that the other Cloud Volume Service offerings are, except that the Azure version, Azure NetApp Files, is Azure native and, like I said, a first-party Microsoft offering, which is pretty cool. Now I'm going to break out of my PowerPoint momentarily because I'd like to share a map of the regions where you can currently get Cloud Volume Service. So this is the map showing our availability for all Cloud Volumes products in AWS. So you'll notice the blue dots are regions, AWS regions, where we offer Cloud Volumes on tap. The green dots are regions where we offer Cloud Volumes on tap and Cloud Volume Service. And it doesn't really distinguish. Some of these are in production. Some of these regions are coming soon. But you can see we have a pretty good spread here. We're definitely looking to expand the locations where you can get access to Cloud Volume Service in AWS. Go ahead and click over to Azure. Here's where you can get access to Cloud Volumes on tap and Cloud Volumes on tap and Azure NetApp Files. So the green would be Azure NetApp Files as well. Then just looking at the Google availability. Still some work to be done on Google. You can see we have 1 region up and then a few coming soon. And by the way, this chart is available at cloud.netapp.com, which is a website that I will be referring to constantly during this presentation. We do keep that website very up to date. It has a lot of great info, not only on Cloud Volume Service, but on all of the various Cloud Data Services products that NetApp offers. So highly recommend that as a resource if you have any questions or, like I said, first thing in the presentation, if you just want to be kept up to date on what we're doing. Okay, so one of the first questions I always get when Cloud Volume Service comes up is, okay, how does that compare to Cloud Volumes on tap? Now, some of you may have heard me do a couple of webinars on Cloud Volumes on tap for disaster recovery. That is another product that is near and dear to my heart. Cloud Volume Service and Cloud Volumes on tap are both awesome offerings and 2 great ways for you to get NFS and SMB storage in the cloud. Quick note, Cloud Volumes on tap has gone through a couple of branding changes. So if you're old school and you've been around for a couple of years, yeah, a couple of years is old school in the cloud world. You probably originally saw Cloud Volumes on tap called Cloud on Tap. Then I believe we went with On Tap Cloud. Then we put Cloud first again, but added a volume. So now it's Cloud Volumes on tap. They're all the same product. Want to make sure we get ahead of any confusion there. Anyway, so the main differences between these 2 products is just the approach that they take to helping you get so-called cloud volumes in your cloud. So Cloud Volumes on tap enables you to build a virtual storage appliance that runs on tap and that uses cloud-native compute and storage resources. So the idea here is that you're more or less building a FAS, but instead of using chips and processors and RAM and whatnot, we're just using, and we'll just use AWS terminology for today since that's the focus of our presentation. Instead of using physical parts to build that, we're using native AWS resources. So Elastic Compute Cloud, Elastic Block Storage, and Simple Storage Service. So, once you've created that virtual appliance, you as the customer are responsible for basically using that appliance properly for your needs. Now, I don't want to make it seem like using Cloud Volumes ONTAP is difficult, because I really don't believe that's the case. Our teams have done a great job building a lot of automation into the Cloud Volumes ONTAP platform through On-Command Cloud Manager, which is the tool that you would actually use to deploy Cloud Volumes ONTAP. So, if you're the kind of user that doesn't want to go deep into your configuration, there's a lot of automation that makes deploying that product simple. The important thing to understand, though, is that virtual appliance is yours, and it's up to you as the user to choose the right resources, the right settings, design it the right way to meet whatever your performance requirements might be for your application or your share or whatever you're using it for. And, in comparison, Cloud Volume Service is really just framed as a storage service. So you don't need to think about the appliance. You don't need to think about basically anything except how much SMB, NFS, or multi-protocol storage you need, and then what performance level you need. And we handle the rest. So that's just it's a more direct path to getting to that cloud volume that everybody wants, and it's a simpler approach to performance, right? You don't have any responsibilities to maintain. You don't really need to care about the infrastructure. You just let us know what performance tier you need. NetApp handles the rest. And so to really beat this point down, here's a simple chart just kind of showing a comparison between the two products. So starting with the first 4 lines, this sort of rehashes what I already talked about. With Cloud Volumes ONTAP, there's a certain amount of setup and configuration. A lot of it's automated, but the fact is that you as the customer are responsible for performing those tasks and making sure that the way you do that is in line with what you actually need out of your storage. Cloud Volume Service, there is no setup, there is no configuration. That stuff's already done. Cloud Volumes ONTAP, you'll periodically want to upgrade as we come out with new versions. Cloud Volume Service, there are no versions. That's all done non-disruptively in the background as we maintain the infrastructure that runs the service. Same thing with performance levels. You are responsible for making the decisions that lead to your performance level that you actually get out of your storage. Cloud Volume Service, we just give you that. Already kind of went over the fact that we're talking about a service construct versus a virtual appliance. A couple other important points that are, I think, helpful to address. First of all, pricing. So pricing for Cloud Volume Service is very straightforward. You pay for the amount of storage that you use every month at a flat rate. Cloud Volumes ONTAP, it's a little more difficult to figure out how much you're paying for each gigabyte per month, because the way that solution is priced is based around the cost of running that virtual appliance that you're building in the cloud. So there's going to be a license cost to NetApp, then there's going to be the cost of the infrastructure that you actually need in order to run your Cloud Volumes ONTAP environments. And, it's not like you can't come up with that $1 per gigabyte a month, figure, that's just not the way it's framed. And it requires some assumptions, and it requires, if you really want to come to a good estimate, you have to have a really good understanding of the infrastructure you're going to have to deploy. So it's just not quite as simple. A few other important things to mention. Cloud Volumes ONTAP does support one SAN protocol, iSCSI. Cloud Volumes Service is all NAS, NFS, and SMB. Cloud Volumes Service will be available in GCP / is available in GCP. Cloud Volumes ONTAP is strictly an AWS and Azure offering. One last note that I know is important for a lot of people who use NetApp, especially on premises. Cloud Volumes Service uses our Cloud Sync tool for replication, which is, a great replication service. It's very efficient. It's very fast. But Cloud Volumes ONTAP uses SnapMirror, which is what a lot of NetApp customers are a little more comfortable with. So that's sort of how I think about the breakdown between the two products. I'll pause for questions here before I go into some particulars about NetApp Cloud Volume Service for AWS. I haven't seen any questions come through the chat, and I still don't. So I'll assume I've explained this amazingly, or I've taken way too long to explain it. Either way, we'll move on. So let's talk about NetApp Cloud Volume Service for AWS in particular, starting with the architecture. Now, there's going to be a little bit of hand-waving here, and I don't mean to be frustrating, but that is, quite frankly, the point of the product, is that we don't want you as a user to have to worry about or think about this storage. We just want it to be there when you need it and to do what you need it to do. But here's what the architecture looks like. So the data for Cloud Volume Service actually sits in NetApp Managed Systems in a co-location near AWS data centers. So you're getting all the benefits of using ONTAP hardware when you use Cloud Volume Service. So, the features of ONTAP relating to data protection, like RAID Tech, high availability controller heads, ONTAP quality of service. All those things are happening in the background and being managed by NetApp to ensure that your data is protected and that the performance that you get out of this service is exactly what it should be. Since you're actually connecting to a system in a co-location, you would connect to Cloud Volume Service through a virtual private gateway, or VPG, or a direct connect gateway, DCG, that is connected to your virtual private cloud, or VPC in AWS. A lot of TLAs. And again, just to really drive this point home, NetApp is managing all aspects of this infrastructure. So, the idea here is simplicity. I put it at the top. This is a product for people who like sausage. This is not a product for people who like watching sausage being made or making their own sausage. Cool. So another great question that would come up next is, hey, so what are the features of Cloud Volume Service for AWS? So I've said this a few times already, but you can provision NFS, SMB, and multi-protocol volumes. So by multi-protocol, I mean a volume that would be accessible using NFS and SMB at the same time. The maximum volume size right now is 100 terabytes. So you can't create a volume that is larger than 100 terabytes. That's one of the hard limits that we do have. This product does have snapshots and clones, as you would expect from any product based on ONTAP. There are 3 guaranteed performance tiers that you can choose from. You'll choose one performance tier for each volume, but you can switch the performance tier of a volume non-disruptively at any time, and you can mix and match your performance tiers among your volumes. So there's no need to feel locked in. And of course, we do have full RESTful API support. And, we mentioned pricing a little earlier. This is what the pricing looks like today. I'll also give you a link at the top of the page to our pricing page on our website. This will give you the latest information. And by the way, cloud.netapp.com/pricing also has pricing details for Cloud Volumes on Tap and some pricing calculators for that product. I did mention that it was hard to come up with a, price per gigabyte per month for Cloud Volumes on Tap. There are some calculators that you can find through the link above that will help you come to that calculation, or at least come to an estimated cost per gigabyte if you're interested in doing some comparison shopping. Let's take a second real quick and just talk about the 3 performance tiers that we are offering at the moment. So there's standard, there's premium, and there's extreme. So yeah, you can see the details on the screen about the performance characteristics of each. Standard being the lowest at 1,000 IOPS per terabyte, 16 megabytes of throughput per terabyte, versus extreme, which goes all the way up to 8,000 IOPS and 128 megabytes of throughput per terabytes. Yeah, and so I want to emphasize the right way to think about the performance tiers is that you should really match the tier to the workload that you are interested in running. So for some workloads, extreme will actually be cheaper than standard.
8.
And what did I okay. So for some workloads, extreme will actually be cheaper than standard. And the idea there is, match the tier to the type of workload that you have. So extreme would be for a workload where not a lot of capacity is required, but a lot of performance is required. Standard would be for workloads where a lot of capacity is required, but maybe not a lot of performance. Right? A workload that doesn't require a lot of capacity, but a lot of performance would have to be well over provisioned on capacity using standard. You'd actually have to provision a lot less storage on extreme to get to the same end result. So just a note on that. Okay. Let's talk really quickly through some use cases. So, this is a simple service. It's actually a great fit for most cloud-based NFS and SMB workloads. And I do say it's best for workloads that run in the cloud. Because you do have to connect through a Direct Connect gateway to utilize the product, you can run into issues trying to access the storage from on-premises hosts. It's really more geared towards workloads that run in the cloud. Really, it's great for any workload that requires NFS or SMB storage, analytics, databases, web serving, file shares, media, DevOps, and I did mention it's got full API support, so you can automate it. Another thing, worth emphasizing is sometimes it's not the workload so much as the user that, is determinant of which product you should choose. Cloud Volume Service is great for those users who need to consume high-quality cloud storage, but who either don't want to or can't manage it, right? People like data scientists, they need this storage, but they don't really have the technical skills to understand managing the intricacies of ONTAP. But that's okay. This is a perfect product for them. So a couple of use cases that are maybe less than ideal. I'm not going to say bad. First of all, this is a pretty new product, so we haven't had a chance yet to get a lot of compliance certifications in place. For example, FedRAMP, Cloud Volume Service is not FedRAMP ready yet. Cloud Volumes on Tap is. I would just say if you have really specific compliance requirements where your storage needs to be certified, check with your account team. It's worth pursuing, but a lot of that stuff just quite simply isn't in place yet. A few other limitations. There is an AWS EC2 limit of 4.5 gigabytes per second throughput per EC2 instance. So unfortunately, that's just a hard limit in AWS. We can't really go over that. By the way, AWS advertises that limit at 5 gigabytes per second. We found in testing it's more like 4.5, but just worth noting. We do have a limit of 50 million files or directories per volume. I put an asterisk there. If you reach out, we can help you go over that limit, but that's generally what the product is designed for, fewer files and directories than that. And then I mentioned this earlier, but there is a hard limit of 100 terabytes per volume. So if you have a use case that would require more than 100 terabytes in a single volume, it's probably not a great fit for Cloud Volume Service at this time. Okay, so I saw a couple of questions came in. I will address those before we get to the demonstration part of this presentation. So I saw we had a question about SMB support. Yes, Cloud Volume Service does support Active Directory. You can configure your Active Directory server, and that's actually something I'll show in the demo. Then we had a question about Flex Group for larger volume size. Is that roadmapped? As far as I know right now, that is not roadmapped. I think that would be a more advanced feature that we would see in Cloud Volumes ONTAP rather than Cloud Volume Service. As I keep saying, Cloud Volume Service is really just designed to be simple. I don't foresee that Flex Groups will be a thing that it supports. Though I wouldn't be surprised if that 100 terabyte limit were changed in the future. Cool. Any other questions before we get live into this demo? All right. So without further ado, let's get into this demo. So if we were actually using Cloud Volume Service, our journey would start at cloud.netapp.com. We'd go into My Services, and then we would say Cloud Volume Service. In this case, I've already got a Cloud Volumes lab up. Just makes things a little simpler. All right, cool. So this is what the main Cloud Volume Service interface looks like. It's fairly straightforward. So you have a tab for volumes, a tab for any snapshots that you've taken, tab for Active Directory configuration, and then there's a tab for using Cloud Sync. The version of Cloud Volume Service that I'm using right now has Cloud Sync integrated into it because I'm on a bundle version. I didn't get into that in the presentation, but don't expect to always see the sync here. Sync will usually be handled through a separate tool that's also linked through Cloud Central. Anyway, so the process for creating a new volume is very, very straightforward. You simply click Create New Volume. First decide, what kind of volume do we need, NFS, SMB, or dual protocol. For this demo, I'm going to mount this volume to a Windows host, so we will just stick with SMB. I start off by giving the volume a name. This will be the name that you see as you manage the volume. I'm going to think of something really creative like demo volume. Cool. Choose the region that you would like the volume to sit in. So I'm in a simulator here, so we're going to use the made-up region of LOD demo. Choose the time zone that this volume is going to sit in, and that's just for time stamping. It doesn't really matter all that much. Then you do need to set a volume path, and it will give you an automatically generated one. You can refresh it if you like. This will be the mount path that you use to actually mount the volume later. I like to refresh this a couple of times until I get a really good one. Groovy Jovial Goldberg. We have a winner. Perfect. You can also create volumes from a snapshot that you've taken, which we'll actually do later on in the demo. Choose a service level for your volume. I always go for extreme, because why not? In Cloud Volume Service, snapshots do count against your quota. And remember, there's a 100 terabyte limit on your volume. So, if you want to specify a certain percentage that's reserved for snapshots, if you're worried about coming up against that limit, that's, available for you to do. Then you can set a quota. This is kind of counterintuitive. The quota here is actually to determine the amount of performance that should be allocated to this volume. And it'll also determine the amount that you pay for the volume. But technically, every volume that you provision, you can fill up to 100 terabytes. So we'll just keep that at 1 terabyte. Why not? Keep our NTFS security style. I'm not going to use any tags. Our Active Directory is already configured here from the demo, but you would enter that information here too when you're creating an SMB volume. Of course, for an NFS volume, you wouldn't need to enter this. And if you were doing a dual protocol volume, you would also enter this. Then if you'd like, you can set up a snapshot policy so that this volume is automatically maintaining snapshots for you. So, mine at 5 of every hour, keep the 5 most recent. Why not? Just for fun. Okay. That's all we needed to do to create a volume. We press the Create button. We wait a few seconds. Oh, I lost count. I think that was less than 10 seconds. If it wasn't, it was really close. I did not falsely advertise this. Cool. So we have a volume now. It's ready to go. We're going to go ahead and mount it to our Windows host here. So here's our export path. It's Groovy Jovial Goldberg, which I'm so happy about. I can automatically copy that. If you're not super confident, if you're one of those users who's kind of new to this sort of storage, we have instructions right there. Super convenient. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this. We'll call it Drive Z. That sounds fun. Okay. Cool. We've created the storage. We've mounted it. I'm going to go ahead and put a file in here just for fun. Business data.txt. Cool. This is my original business. Did I just spell business wrong? No, I didn't. Cool. So I saved that. We have one file. Now I'm going to go back into my volume. And we're going to create a new snapshot. And you know what? While we're here, just for fun and to show you that I didn't lie, let's go ahead and downgrade our performance to standard. I think that should be sufficient for our one text file. Give that a second. And why don't we just expand our quota too? Just because we can. Awesome. So we'll create a new snapshot. Give it a creative name like Demo Snap. Actually, call it Demo Snapshot. Be formal. And we'll confirm that we are looking at demo volume. Perfect. Let's create a snapshot. As you would expect from NetApp, snapshots are instant, very quick. 124 bytes. Love it. Okay, so we've taken a snapshot of our of our cloud volume. Now I'm going to go in. Let's say we had a disgruntled employee who got fired or something. They went in and they just messed with all of my business data. Not good. Not a happy camper. But hey, no big deal. I took a snapshot of the original version. So I can just go over to my snapshots. Let's say I like this one. We're going to restore this to a new volume. Demo restore, why not? We'll make this another SMB volume. I love that volume path. I'm not going to change that. Notice here it's already decided to create from snapshot because I had initiated this new volume from the snapshot page saying to restore the snapshot to a new volume. I'm not going to be too worried about the little details of this volume. It's in the same Active Directory. All right, cool. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, we'll give him a break on that one. Maybe the snapshot. There we go. Okay. Then we can mount this new volume the same way we mounted the old volume. Yeah, we'll make this Y. Okay, our new volume's mounted. And hey, when we open up businessdata.txt, this is my original business data. The snapshots work. The day has been saved. Yeah, exciting stuff. So that concludes the demonstration. Actually, let me just go back to the interface while everybody's here. Were there any questions about what I just showed here with the brief demonstration? So I did see a question about payments. So the question was, do we pay AWS separately or do we receive one invoice from NetApp for all services, licenses, and resources? Great question. So currently, this product is in preview. So if you wanted to use the product today, you would actually need to buy it directly from NetApp by contacting your NetApp account team. And in that case, it would be one PO that goes directly to NetApp. At some point during this calendar year, this Cloud Volume service for AWS will go general availability, and it will be available to self-deploy through the AWS Marketplace. Once that is done, everything would just be paid through the AWS Marketplace through your AWS account. Okay, then we had a question about previous version support. Yes, that is supported. I'm assuming you mean the Windows previous versions. That is supported. And then good question about manual snapshots. The question is the manual snapshot auto-deleted based on the auto snapshot policy copy retention setting? Yeah, answer to that is I don't believe so, but I would actually want to double check and get back to you on that just to make sure I'm not giving you the wrong information. Okay. Any other questions about Cloud Volume Service for AWS? Cool. Oh. One last question about evaluating Cloud Volume Service. So for today, Cloud Volume Service cannot be automatically provisioned. If you are interested in evaluating this product, the best thing to do is to connect your NetApp account team. They can help you get started. Alternatively, you can go to cloud.netapp.com and I believe under the Cloud Volume Service pages, there's actually a form you could fill out, and somebody from NetApp will get in contact with you. Let's see. Yeah. So it would be under the Cloud Volume Service page where it says Register for Service. If you click either of those links, somebody from NetApp will get in touch with you and help you get started. Let's see. Then we had a question about if Cloud Volume Service interfaces with CDOT clusters. So Cloud Volume Service does not support SnapMirror today. That is a roadmap item. I don't expect it to be in place anytime in the near future. If you did want to utilize Cloud Volume Service for AWS with a CDOT cluster, you certainly could, but the way to set up that replication would be through Cloud Sync. And by the way, for those who aren't familiar with Cloud Sync, that replication technology is vendor agnostic. You can use it to sync data to or from Cloud Volume Service from any NFS or SMB source. And then looks like we have one last question. Are there plans to back up the volume or snapshot to another region? What a fantastic question. Yes, there certainly are plans. We have a backup service in the works, not available yet today, but it does exactly, well, almost exactly that, where you'll be able to take snapshots from your volume and then store them in S3 for added redundancy. And by the way, if you wanted to create a volume in, for example, US East and then a volume in US West, and then use one of those volumes as a backup site, you could certainly sync your data to a different region. That's totally doable today. All right. Any last questions? Oop. So another question about SnapMirror. So yes, SnapMirror is roadmapped, but like I said, that is not a short-term roadmap item. So I would definitely check back with us on that in a little bit. And we had one last question from Raymond. How would you get around multi-tenancy? Raymond, could you clarify what you mean by that? And feel free to take yourself off mute. Oh, got you. Yeah, that's exactly why it's not ready yet. Yeah, so that's one of the technical problems that we're working on in order to make SnapMirror work with the solution. Cool. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, hey, I really, really appreciate everyone's time today. It was such a pleasure speaking with you all about Cloud Volume Service. Like I said, this is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. Big fan of these products. Love talking about them. You know, if you're interested in evaluating Cloud Volume Service, here are your next steps. I would check out cloud.netapp.com or just, reach out to your NetApp account team. And if you don't know who your NetApp account team is, you could reach out to me, and I'll be happy to connect you. I put my email address on the first slide. It's jdemasi@netapp.com. Happy to help in any way that I can. Before we wrap things up, here's just a few links that I referred to during the presentation. Cloud Central, here's where all of our documentation is at docs.netapp. There's the availability map I showed you. Here's the pricing. I'm sure you're already signed up for our webinar since you're here, but in case you're not, hey, go ahead and sign up. We could do this again. And yeah, there's a link to the NetApp YouTube channel. So again, just wanted to say thank you for your time. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all, and I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day.
And thank you so much, John. It was a fabulous presentation. We all learned so much from you. And to everyone that joined, thank you so much for your time. We hope to see you on our upcoming webinars that we include on our newsletter. If you're not receiving the newsletter and the communications, you can just let me know, and I will make sure to add you to the list. I will be sending out the deck and a link to the recording to everyone who is registered. So even if you can't attend the session and you have interest, I'd be happy to follow up with a link for you. So if no one has any other questions, I think that we'll give you back a few minutes of your day. And if you do have a follow-up question, feel free to reach out to me in email, and I will get the answer out to you. Thank you again, John, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thanks, Joy.
Thank you.